Good morning and good day, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, as you join in from all corners of the world. Welcome to this fraymedia Foundation Mentorship Booster Programme Skills Development Seminar. This is the first of three, and today we are all about building the business, with key remarks given by our guest speaker, Naadiya Moosajee, co-founder of WomHub. This mentorship program is a timely intervention by the fraymedia Foundation for practical insights designed to consolidate entrepreneurial learning and addressing real-world challenges within media business. I am Bongiwe Tutu, fraymedia Foundation's COO, and it is my great pleasure to open today's seminar. I am joined by remarkable leading women in the industry, and as by today's program, they will be steering today's conversation and will be talking about the realities of building a business in Africa, the emerging opportunities in digital and media ecosystems, the lessons from building and supporting entrepreneurs, as well as what founders could focus on early on. So please do make use of the chat and Q&A functions here on Zoom. Introduce yourselves and tell us where you are joining us from, as well as what you are looking forward to from the webinar. And please also share there your questions and comments, which will be discussed after the presentations. As by the purpose of the fraymedia Foundation Mentorship Booster Program, today we are looking forward to empowering women with skills, with knowledge, with networks to thrive sustainably in media and business. This mentorship program is meant to strengthen practical skills in media and communications, equipping participants with the tools that are needed to navigate the evolving industry and landscape, to build leadership and professional confidence, enabling women to grow into decision makers and leaders within the media sector, to provide structured learning, combining both theoretical knowledge as well as real world application, and to support career and business development, helping participants to advance in journalism, media, and entrepreneurship and communication roles. And finally, the mentorship program is to create a collaborative learning environment. It is encouraging networking, encouraging mentorship, and knowledge sharing among women in media business. We are especially excited that this program brings together the beneficiaries of existing initiatives by the fraymedia Foundation. We have cohorts from the Entrepreneur Program from 2024 and 2025, as well as candidates from the Pangisile Charlie Grant Award. The 10 women in total were selected as mentees to this Mentorship Booster Program, and they will be receiving stipends as well as directed mentorship and coaching from leading experts in the field. So we are excited to the continued growth and development of these professionals, as well as attendees who have joined us through the open invitation to build on your business ventures. So what do we expect from you? We are expecting active participation and engagement, attending all sessions, contributing to discussions, asking questions, and fully engaging in the learning activities. We are expecting a commitment to your learning and to your growth, that you be open to new ideas, to feedback and skills development, and apply those learnings to your professional journey. That you have preparation and professionalism throughout the seminars and the mentorship sessions, that you come prepared for the sessions, that you complete any assigned requirements, that you look up on the speakers, that you have some prepared questions for them in order to engage meaningfully and to maintain a respectful and professional presence, as well as collaboration and peer learning, that you share your experiences and you support your fellow participants and you contribute to a safe and inclusive learning environment. And finally, follow through and application, that you implement the knowledge and skills gained from the seminars in your work, in your business, in your projects, and your development as we look forward to learning from the impact of these initiatives. So it is my honor to welcome our guest speaker, Naadiya Moosajee, co-founder of WomHub, who will be formally introduced by Paula Frey. And Paula Frey is the CEO and co-founder of fraymedia Foundation and has a very exceptional bio as shared on screen. She is a pioneer in media business and an advocate for women's leadership and growth. Paula leads with an impact that is spanning across the continent and globally. And so, without further ado, thank you very much and welcome everyone. We are looking forward to your engagements. And now, let me hand over to our host. Thank you, Paula, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Bangiwe. And so let me just start off by saying, I am really, it's really great to see everyone who's turned up today. We initially put these together in fact, we now have 12 mentees. We put these seminars together for our 12 mentees, and then we decided to really open it up because we wanted to have three really practical business building sessions where we hope that people will be able to take away strategic insights that they'll be able to use in order to grow their business. And so I want you to take a moment just to have a look around this virtual room and see who's here with you, because it's my sincere hope that in 10 years' time, in 5 years' time, in 3 years' time, that you all will be, winning grants, winning big clients, scaling your business, doing innovative things to kind of do new ways of producing not just news, but also all forms of media across the African continent. And so I want to say just the fact that you are here is really gratifying. I acknowledge, as someone who also started her own business, that showing up for something like this when you are already busy is not a small thing. It really is an absolute investment into your business. So I'm just going to share my screen, um, and um, and so I'm going to really not only talk about the program, but also talk about some of the challenges that we see women experience in media business. And just to be clear, I'm talking about women, but we do have men who've signed up for these sessions, and we've actually opened it up as much as possible. Our programs privilege women, but we try not to be exclusionary, and so we do have men who've signed up for these programs. Um, so today's session is, as Bongi was saying, one of three sessions. It is the start of our mentorship booster program. And so what we're doing here actually is very, very specific. We're not talking about how to be better communicators, how to be better journalists, how to be better media managers. I think everyone here already is that, does that, knows that. What we are talking about for the next three sessions is how to build businesses, how to shift from doing work to actually really managing and building a business that can scale. Um, the Mentorship Booster Program is a focused initiative and is really designed to kind of help women media entrepreneurs to change gears, to strengthen and grow their businesses. And so we're starting off with 12 mentees that will allow us to really provide tailored hands-on support. But our real long-term intention is to refine this model and to deepen it and then to scale so that we're actually helping as many women and across the African continent in future. As part of this program, each of the mentees are paired with an experienced mentor for a minimum of 3 structured one-on-one sessions focused on their specific business. And so for the mentors, the mentees who are in today's session, I want to say we have almost finalized your assignments. You'll be getting your letters tomorrow to introducing you to your mentor. And I'm very, very pleased to say that the mentors include members of our board, but also professional. We've had to bring in some outside skills, particularly around podcasting, building a podcast business, etc. And, and so we have a range of mentors, both male and female, who are going to be supporting us. These webinars, though, that are open to everyone are really designed to provide practical guidance, right? And so it is not just about the theory of business, but we want you to ask hard questions. We've brought together guest speakers who are going to give really practical advice. Naadiya Moosajee, who is joining us today, works with women in STEM across Africa. She, her organization WomHub has supported women engineers, has supported women in STEM across the continent to build businesses, particularly around a green economy. And she, more than anyone, knows the challenges that women face when it comes to getting funding, the challenges that women face when trying to start up online businesses. And so he's a really valuable resource, and I'm hoping we'll be able to tap in to what she has to say. Um, and so really for me, this is about encouraging you during these webinars, but also in your one-on-one with your mentorship, is to recognize that it's not about people simply giving you the answers. It's about a space for honest conversations, deep reflection, um, identifying the problems that you are dealing with, and then coming into the safe space to really think about how you might be able to overcome them. I want to say that not all of us are starting a business from scratch. Some of us already have a business. Some of us have a business plan. We have 5-year strategies that are already in place. It is a really good process to sit down once a year and really think about, is my business plan fit for purpose? When you think of the dramatic change that has happened in the last 3 years, just in terms of how AI has really shifted the way we work, how new platforms are really. I was just doing an audit of who where I was a member of a media entity, where I had cancelled my subscriptions, and really where I'm getting my news from. And one of the things that really surprised me is how individuals starting their own media entities, content creators, small media houses driving their distribution through newsletters. I was really surprised by how my own consumption of media has shifted from traditionally big media houses to individuals or small newsrooms that are actually delivering targeted news and targeted news coverage. So for those of you who are on the mentorship program, I really encourage you to make the most of your mentor. I'm hoping that you will build lifelong friendships, and that your relationship will not end at the end of this process, and that you will continue to actually grow with one another going forward. Why does this program exist? Because we know that for many, many women who have started up their business, they're basically working another job in order to keep their business going, or they are working in their business without necessarily paying themselves. They're struggling with income. They're struggling with positioning themselves in the marketplace, and most of all, struggling with scaling. And so we're starting small businesses, but we're not necessarily scaling, and up to the point where we're actually able to walk away from our business or step back from our business and allow other people to actually take over. And so these 3 webinars that we're going to be doing this month, and then in April and in May, are really designed to support those of us building media and communication companies to move from skill to sustainability. And so what we want to do is to really focus on the full journey of building a business, starting today with strategy and positioning, then moving on to building clients, revenue and growth, and then finally looking at leadership, resilience, and long-term sustainability. And so today's session really is about building the business, and it's about laying the foundation. And we want to focus on how you kind of move from being a freelancer, a skilled communicator, to being a business owner. Um, we want to focus on building viable businesses. We want these to be very, very practical and action oriented, and we're trying to avoid being theoretical or very, very passive. So one of the biggest challenges I had in starting my business was that because I was really good at writing the story, at producing the content, at producing the product, that very often I saw that as my job, and so I was constantly servicing clients. I was constantly doing the work, and even now, sometimes I find myself back in the trap of doing the training, doing the work, and not really focusing on building the business. And so, what we want during these sessions is for you really to think about how do you shift from doing the work to working on building the business, right? And in order to do that, the question really is not about skill. It's not about how do you work smarter, how do you work faster, how do you deliver more in order to really generate more income. It's about the structure of your organization. It's about real clarity in terms of how you're generating income, for who you're generating income for. So I want you to really think about something. Over the past few years, through our entrepreneur program and our other initiatives, we really worked with many incredible, talented women. And what we've constantly seen is this, that people have the skills. So the problem is not the skills, but what they struggle with is making consistent income. I think a number of you have raised this before, right? It's feast or famine. Either you've got too much work, and you're struggling to really deliver quality to your clients, or you've got too little work. And you're really just kind of scrounging and trying to make sure that there's enough money to pay everyone on payday. So making consistent income is one of the issues we've seen very, very often. The other thing is positioning them ourselves clearly. And that's very often because we chase the money rather than the mandate, right? If somebody is offering money for HIV and AIDS content, we're doing HIV and AIDS content. If somebody is offering money for a podcast, we're doing a podcast. And so we're basically following the money. And while we're doing that, we're not positioning ourselves clearly, and we're not positioning ourselves in terms of exactly what makes us unique in the marketplace. And so we're in this constant cycle of working, 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 but the business itself isn't moving. Um, and that also relates to, the fact that very often we underprice ourselves to such an extent that we will end up having to work 6, 7 days a week in order to generate income that we would have been able to generate if we were in fact working for someone else. And so really positioning ourselves clearly is a major challenge if we haven't actually thought about what our strategy is. And then the other challenge is, how do you build long-term relationships with clients? How do you move away from one-off work? And so what we and all of this comes down to these common traps. We underprice ourselves. We don't have a niche. There is no unique selling point that makes us different to everyone else. We're doing everything in the business. We are the copy maker, the editor, the writer, the producer, right? I mean, the trainer. We're all over, but we're doing nothing that is really unique for our clients. And we confuse visibility with income. Because visibility, just because you're out there doing all kinds of things, doesn't necessarily mean you're making sufficient to generate profit and to generate cash flow that allows you to actually um, grow your business. So if these are the common traps, then what does a business really need? A good business needs a very, very clear audience. Who's your customer? Who's your client, right? I mean, um, who are you actually trying to reach out for? And again, this is right. If you want to make consistent income, you can't be trying to be doing everything for everyone. You've got to be very, very clear about who you're targeting. What is your offer? What do you do that other people don't do? Even if you're selling the same product, what makes your product unique? What makes your product better than what other people are offering? Um, what is your revenue, right? I mean, what is your cost of producing something? And are you actually generating income for that? Then, um, and then finally, yes, businesses need visibility, but they need visibility with the right audience. It's no use if you're talking to other journalists when, in fact, the people who are going to pay you are outside the journalism field. And so, if you if you're starting your business, then you need to ask yourself, am I acting like a freelancer, right? Kind of going after individual jobs. What work can I get? What story can I write? What individual task can I do that will generate income? Or am I acting like a founder, somebody who's building something for long term, for sustainability, somebody who has a very clear idea of what the offer is, what the audience is, what problem we're solving for the audience, what value we're adding, um, how we're generating income that is building a sustainable business. Are you acting like a freelancer who's doing individual stories or individual tasks for pay? Or are you acting like a founder who really is building a sustainable business? Because those are to shift from I do the work to I am building a business is an important shift. It's not the same thing. Yes, when you are a founder, you do a lot of the work, but you're not thinking like a freelancer. Doing the work gets you paid once. Building a business creates something that sustains you for the long term. So I want to really think about, um, who specifically do you serve? Think about that. I mean, who specifically do you serve? It's really interesting because Frey Media Foundation has been thinking about this question, right? I mean, if we want to impact the media landscape in Africa, um, then we need to think about what is the change we want to see, and if we're going to see that change, if we're going to really get to a point where women are a significant number of media owners, media managers, and spokespersons in the media, then who do we need to be speaking to? And in this vast media landscape, who are we serving? And so, you know, what is your niche? What is the product that you're actually um, delivering? Um, what are you actually selling to that audience? Um, if you are visible, how do people find you? If people want to, um, a number of us are producing podcasts. Um, how do you, you've got your own podcast, but if you're also selling podcasting as a product, how do people actually find you? So I want you to think about that, right? I mean, people have visibility. They can find you online, but is it linked to your product? If people find me, do they find the foundation? Or they have a skill. They're able to do something, but the skill isn't linked to the needs of their audience. So think about that. Who specifically do you serve? What is the product that you're actually looking at? And for you, what does it mean to shift from freelancer to founder? If you're starting out, and I know a number of us, when I started Frey Intermedia, I mean, I didn't want to take out a loan. And so I was really risk averse, and I grew my business by doing individual work. But at some point, I had to sit down and say, what is my business plan? What is my 3-year plan? What is my 5-year plan? Am I working towards that? Or am I on this constant treadmill of delivering? So I'm going to say this again. Freelancer asks, what work can I get? A founder asks, what am I building with the work I'm doing? Um, if you're looking for your niche, right? I mean, if you say, for example, I work with anyone who needs communication, that's not a niche. A niche really kind of drills down to specificity. I Rather than say I work with anyone who needs a communicator, you can say I help small businesses build their brand presence. I work with NGOs focused on health communication. The more specific you are, the easier it becomes for potential clients to understand you, to trust you, and to hire you. Um, there are lots of people out there offering podcasts. What is your niche? What is the specific thing that you're offering so that people who want that specific thing will actually find you? So, what is your value proposition? I want you to write this down, and I want you to, at the end of today's session, to really go away and ask yourself, how do you answer this question? What is your value proposition? I help who? Who's the audience here? Is it other businesses? Is it individuals? Is it NGOs? Is it government officials? Who is your audience? Solve what problem? I help audiences, right? I help NGOs um, solve the issue of communicating with young people through my multimedia, my multi-platform storytelling. What is your specific value proposition? What makes you different to everyone else on this call who also is producing media and communications content? Um, if you can't clearly articulate what you're selling, what you're doing, then really you can't sell yourself to other people. There are a few common business models, right? I mean, you can sell your services, you can sell your content, you can sell your a hybrid of the two. You can sell your ability to be able to strategically develop content or develop strategies for other people. You don't need a complicated model, but you do need a clear one. So I really do want you to think about it and think about how what your value proposition is and what you're doing. And then, because this question comes up very, very often, we're actually going to deal with it in quite detail in the next 2 sessions. How do you price? And the reason why the slide is here, because after today's session, I want you to go back and I want you to really think about your costing of your various products at the moment, and then think about the time it takes you to deliver those various products, and include your own time, because very often when we're costing, we include other people's time, we include our buyout, but we don't include our own time. And then I want you to think about, are you actually pricing your products realistically? Because if you're not pricing realistically, then you are in fact subsidizing clients. And if you're subsidizing clients, then you can't actually build a sustainable business. And I think it's really, really important that you think about that, and you think about how you're actually going to be looking at being able to produce a business that is not just one job at a time, but actually building a sustainable long-term business. We really want these sessions to serve your needs, and so I'm going to ask if you would, as much as you can, to be able to put your questions, your challenges into the chat, so that when we can, we can share them with future speakers, and really to answer your specific your specific queries. I'm just going to go very, very quickly and see if there are any comments. And if there are any, I saw your point, Denise, in terms of that you can't see any of the other participants. Perhaps if people could introduce themselves in the chat, we could get a better sense of who's in the room, as much as possible, just so that we can get a really interactive conversation going. Um, um, Zwelethwa Dlamini, the Managing Director of the Inhlanhla Center for Investigative Journalism in Eswatini, wants to know what you would need to do to register a similar organization in South Africa. So, Zwelethwa, I don't know if you're part of IJ Hub because they're one of our partners, and we are, in fact, I know that we're working on doing a session with them in the coming days. But what I will tell you is that in the next session with Pat Roberts and Mbali Nekhindwetu, we are in fact going to be talking about compliance, getting registered, how you register. Mbali has a very short but a very, very practical session that allows you to to really register and become compliant, and build a business from that. So please introduce yourselves in the chat. What we really would like to see happening is that you would be able to make build networks in these sessions, so that when you are bidding for bigger jobs, that if you need partners or if you need other people to support you, that you would actually draw on the people who you've met here, and moving forward. So really nice to see all um, um, uh, old faces, new faces. It's great to see everyone here. Please do introduce yourself in the chat. I'm going to stop here because I think that a number of you have heard me speak too many times. And so I'm very, very pleased to introduce our guest speaker for today, Naadiya Moosajee. Naadiya is an amazing woman. I have to tell you, I've known Naadiya for many years. She is really a global leader, not just a South African leader. She is a global leader. She is an Aspen New Voices Fellow. She has won numerous awards. She has done. She calls herself a serial entrepreneur, and she really is a serial entrepreneur. She has a brilliant brain when it comes to what is the new, where should we be going, how can we build innovative new businesses. And so, without further ado, I really want to say, Naadiya, it is such a great honor to be able to introduce you today and to introduce you to the Frame Media Foundation fellows. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Paula, and always just happy to be here, and mad love for Paula. She's just one of the most incredible people that I have a privilege to know. And to all of you on the call today. So I like to start these sessions off by saying that I really am an open book. I've spent the last 20 years building enterprises. And so started out for 10 years building a nonprofit organization that scaled from the footsteps of Table Mountain at the University of Cape Town to 33 countries around the world, with a focus on supporting women and girls in STEM. And STEM for us is science, technology, engineering, mining, and manufacturing. And then in 2016, pivoted from a nonprofit organization into a for-profit venture. There's also scaled across many geographies. And then along the way, started building all sorts of businesses. And so currently right now, still involved at the nonprofit organization. I lead business development for WomHub, which is the primary company that does our work. We run incubators and accelerators for female founders. We have a capital arm that deploys venture capital and concessional grant funding to entrepreneurs. And we build innovation spaces for female entrepreneurs, and we build talent for corporate partners. And then, because I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur and a bit of a chameleon, and always kind of looking at and also a squirrel. Really, if I had to define myself, it would be a squirrel, because a squirrel is always looking for a shiny nut to go and bury somewhere and see what grows. So the best way to describe myself is a squirrel. So the latest nut that I'm burying over the last 2 years has been building out a cybersecurity business. And I think we're about to pivot as well, not just into cybersecurity, but also looking at how we use AI-powered tools to be able to do assessments on anything. And so I am a builder, an AI architect, if you will, to be able to leverage the power of AI to build different things. And so if that's not enough, my husband and I, we co-own a group of restaurants in Cape Town as well. So, I always talk about like AI and STEM, and everybody's like, oh, that's cool. And then I mentioned restaurants, and everybody's like, oh, wow, like amazing. And then they want to know more because everybody loves food. And so it's really an honor. And as I said, an open book, being an entrepreneur with a founding team, a solo entrepreneur as well, a hustler with many things on the side. And I think where we are right now in the world today, leveraging the power of AI, I think starting a business is always easy. Scaling a business is hard. Maintaining a business is much, much harder. But there are tools and tricks today that are there to be able to support business growth, business development. In fact, you can actually get to the end goal much, much faster than you needed to do, 5 years ago. And I'll give you a crazy example. My husband is thinking of opening up another restaurant in the group. And he said, Naadiya, because I'm the engineer, that's technically my background. And he said to me, the premium location we've identified, they need an entire design pack. And usually the entire design pack would have taken me a week to be able to do look and feels, logos, menus, all sorts of things. It took me 3 hours yesterday, mainly because I was doing a whole bunch of other things on the side while doing this. And it was me and 3 AI tools. It was Gemini, GPT, and Claude. And I was literally engaging them in like, this is the look and feel I want. And it was being able to give them very specific instructions to be able to actually develop the entire design concept. And so last night we sat. So what would have taken me such a long space of time actually took me about an hour. The 3 hours was because I was also multitasking and trying to do like 5 million other things. And so in a world of AI, and I think it's Jensen Huang, who is the founder of NVIDIA, which is one of the biggest, fastest growing tech companies in the world. He said the next millionaires are going to be created by AI. And so, you don't even need a big team any longer. You've got the opportunity and the ability to be able to train AI agents to do a bunch of things while you're sleeping. And for me, that's amazing because it means my productivity is through the roof. But it can be a very scary place for entrepreneurs because they're like, how am I going to develop my niche, my business model? Where's my stickiness? Where am I going to play? And AI, for people like me who has been an early adopter of technology, it's always exciting. But for the majority of people, it's actually quite scary because, they have kind of a massive aversion to tech. The other piece is that people are using AI like Google. So they're like, I just need to know, give me the top 5 things. Can you rewrite this piece for me? They're not using it to its fullest potential. And that's because we're not actually training people on how to use AI to its fullest potential. But before we're going to go into AI, because I can speak about AI all day, I usually start the session and I'm hoping I can share. I think I can. Yep. I promise you, this is not going to be death by PowerPoint, but it's the question that I love asking entrepreneurs. Is what kind of handbag are you? And you got 2 handbags here. So on the left, you've got kind of the Woolies bag, retails at $6.50, and then But if you like somebody like me that waits for the 75% off sale, you could get it for like $100, right? Or 100 Rand. And then you've got Louis Vuitton on the other side. Now, this is not a brand endorsement whatsoever. I have judgment for people standing in a queue outside Louis Vuitton waiting to buy said Louis Vuitton at 35,000 Rand. But, if that's, if that makes you happy, you do that, right? But functionally, these two handbags do the exact same thing, right? They carry your stuff. Aesthetically may be different, obviously, but we for this exercise, I tried to kind of find ones that were aesthetically the same, right? So, they both had a handle, they both had a long handle. So if you wanted to wear it like sling away or whatever, they both have a little tassel detail to it. So aesthetically similar, different colors maybe, that's okay. But somebody will stand in a queue and pay 35,000 Rand for the Louis Vuitton handbag, right? Because there's this perceived value that they get, right? And what is the value? Because to make the Louis Vuitton handbag probably costs exactly the same amount to make the Woolies handbag. And if you were watching social media last year, there was a bunch of pieces around how Dolce & Gabbana, for example, people were paying, $1,500 for the handbag, and actually the bag costs like $10 to make in China, and these were all the factories that were making them, and you could buy them directly, right? And so for me, I always ask entrepreneurs, which handbag is your business if you have to think about it? And there is no wrong answer here, because actually there's a bunch of other handbags in these ranges as well. There's the handbag that actually retails at 100 Rand that you can get at Pep stores, right? There's the handbag in between here at Poetry that is like 1,500 Rand, right? And you've got to kind of understand where your business is at. And I think for me, when I think about entrepreneurship and I think about who are the best entrepreneurs, the worst entrepreneurs are the ones that don't know which handbag they are and they're trying to sell to everybody. And I had a founder who came to me. She was just starting out, and she actually does make handbags. And she said, Nadia, I make custom bespoke handbags. And I said, amazing. How much does your handbag cost? And she said, 150 Rand. And I said, at 150 Rand, it doesn't feel custom and bespoke. Like, how are you covering the overheads here? And she's like, no, I stay with my parents. I don't need much money. And I said to her, if you're going to use the words custom and bespoke, in my mind, I'm going to pay premium for it. But if you're going to say it's 150 Rand, it means that actually I'm paying premium because I don't want everybody to have the same handbag, right? But if at 150 Rand, everybody can have my handbag, then why would I do custom and bespoke through you, right? And we changed the whole business model, right? To say, actually, if you want to sell 150 Rand handbags, that's cool because that's where your market is. But if you want to actually scale up and go, I want to sell custom and bespoke, who is going to buy a 1,500 Rand custom handbag? Who's going to buy a 10,000 Rand custom handbag? And this doesn't only work for products, because a lot of people will be like, oh, Nadia, but I don't have a product, right? I'm a service business. Now, WomHub is a service business. And we very early on said, we are going to be a Louis Vuitton kind of brand. What does that mean for us as a service business? It means we take on fewer clients, but the cost to attract a client is high for us. But when we have a client, we lock them in for a long time. So usually our clients do multiple year contracts with us. The longest customer we had was a customer for 13 years, for 3 years in our nonprofit, and then 10 years in our for-profit venture. We've just finished another 6-year contract with a customer, and most of our customers are working with us for multiple years. They know we're more expensive, but they know we deliver value to them, right? So we've been able to capture the perceived value of being bespoke. And I think we've always said, and Louis Vuitton, one of the powerful pieces around Louis Vuitton, I mean, from an environmental conscious perspective, this isn't great, but the LV group said they would rather burn their handbags than let them go on sale, because sales cheapen the brand, right? And so when we go into negotiations with customers, we would talk about reducing a scope versus like giving big discounts, right? Because for us, we want to be a Louis Vuitton bag, right? And then we want to showcase the value. And so we will sometimes cost much higher because we know where their budgets are, and then say, look, what we're going to do is reduce the scope. And we're still delivering the same thing, but we've been able to capture the value. And then in their head, we've already benchmarked where we are as a brand, right? And they'll continue to use us because we functionally will deliver consistently, right? And then it could be the Woolworths bag, right? So, mass availability. You can get it anywhere. You can buy it at the 6.50 because you really like it right now, or you can wait for it to keep discounting until it's on sale at 75% off, right? And that's okay if that's your market, but then you have to play a volume game. Right? That means that you need a lot more clients. They can't be as discerning. Although, I mean, how discerning are you if you're standing for X amount of time outside queuing in a store of Louis Vuitton? But it's around the experience, right? It's the whole experience that you're going into the store and it's not cluttered, it's not crowded. If you've ever been to a Woolies 75% off sale, let me just tell you, it's cluttered, it's crowded, people are pulling stuff. It's not the like, please, ma'am, wait your turn. We will let you in. And there are like 5 people at the store and like 6 store consultants following you around asking, what is it that you need? And they're available at your beck and call. At Woolies, 75%, you can't even see the people, there's queues at the tellers. It's crazy, right? But that's okay because you're going to pay like $100 for your handbag, right? Functionally, again, the same thing. And so right now, think to yourself, what kind of handbag am I? And it's okay to say, you know what, I'm currently a Woolies handbag, but I'd love to get to a Louis Vuitton or a Gucci or whatever, right? And then kind of think about what does it take for my business to get into a different space. So, and how you merge and how you move an ebb and flow is sometimes you even creating other products. So, Louis Vuitton is part of a massive group. They have multiple luxury brands under that group. And they've got other products as well. And I always say the best example of this is like Fiat and Ferrari, right? So Fiat owns Ferrari, right? They've got Ferrari, which is a brand. People are going to spend 5 million rand on a car. Good on you. And it's really loud, but also a very uncomfortable drive. If you've ever driven in a Ferrari, you feel everything on the road, right? And then you've got Fiat, right? That is way more affordable, mass produce, lots of sales being generated, right? Same company, different products. And so within the company that you're building, it's okay that you can have multiple products that speak to something that's volume and cheaper, but understanding you can't give your customer a Ferrari experience with them paying for a Fiat. Now, women and women of color, I want to just talk to you for a minute because I'm not sure what the makeup here is of the Frey Fellows, but we are all giving Louis Vuitton experiences for Woolies prices. And that's because we undervalue ourselves, number one. Number two, we are grateful for the opportunity, always grateful, always in gratitude that somebody believed in us to take a chance on our business. And so we're always delivering Louis Vuitton, but always charging Woolies. What happens in that is that you break, right? You can't consistently be trying to deliver on Louis Vuitton when you are charging forwards because the numbers just don't match, right? What breaks usually? Your personal financials, your mental, physical, and all other well-being, right? Because these are the key challenges that we think about as businesses, right? And so upfront going, this is who I am, and I'm not for everybody. And so with WomHub, I know that, there's for a long time, we didn't actually do any work in South Africa. We're such a proudly South African company. But at some point, 95% of our revenue came outside of South Africa. And that was because the South African market wasn't ready for us. They couldn't afford our pricing. And so we actually hunted, we've got a team, the 3 of us, my fellow co-founder and our CEO, and we always call ourselves like a pride of lionesses because we hunt in a pack, right? And so like, I'm kind of the lead. I grab you in, chase you down, kind of know exactly who the target is. I schmooze you, I make you feel all loved and like you really want to work with us. And then kind of, Hema comes in for the kill, and then Ange like takes the carcass away. So, and feeds all the little cubs. And so, when we go out for a long time, we were actually, our biggest customers were actually sitting in London. And it was really great because we're paying us in pounds, which, before went a long way. It still goes a long way. And then we started diversifying our customer base because we wanted to do some stuff more in the South African market, but we had to wait for the market to catch up to our pricing, right? And so that's the other piece is, if you know what handbag you are, sometimes you are selling in the wrong place. So, my dear friend who is selling 150 Rand customized handbags is selling on Instagram. And I'm like, that's great, but actually that market is very small. You need to think about, if you're going to be customized, bigger price points, what does that market look like? How are you going to attract customers? And I think a lot of the time we spend in thinking about, what's my business model? I fall in love with the product because we builders, and for me specifically, and I'm, every now and again, I'm building something new. So, squirrel, shiny nuts, love the nuts, right? You get so caught up in the building piece that you forget that actually you need to build a business, not just a product line. And a great example, so, Muslim, and had this thing about fashion. So you always see like my scarves are connected to my complete outfit, which is connected to my sneakers because, my sneaker gear is really on point. And everybody used to tell me, oh, Naadiya, you dress so well. You always look so good. And way back in the day, they used to have this saying that says you dress to the nines. I don't know if the young people are saying this any longer, but whatever, we used to say that. And I said, well, okay, if everybody loves my clothes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a hijabi fashion company. Now, this was 2 years before the hijabi fashion companies exploded. And the Turkish fashion scene really came alive. So I was, a visionary early mover in the space. I was in love with the process. I flew to Turkey. I spent all my money on buying fabrics. I got because in Cape Town, we have this old industry of seamstresses, and that I had somebody make every piece. I designed every piece. It was so personal. And then I had a fashion show to launch it. It was amazing because I was in love with the product. I wasn't in love with the business model. And so everybody came, everybody liked it on, we didn't have Instagram back then, so everybody loved it on Facebook. And only the people who loved me bought it. So it was my friends, it was my family. And I always say, if you can sell a product to somebody you don't know, that's when you know you're a real entrepreneur. Before that, everybody's taking pity on you, right? And so I had this great idea, but I didn't focus on the business piece, right? And what happened was I got stuck with, suitcases full of beautifully made clothes, but not the market because the price was too high. I was in the wrong market. I was too early for the full hijabi fashion piece, right? I got so many things wrong because I was trying to fix the system, right? I was just like, I want to create a fashion industry that's hijabi fashion. I wanted women to feel good about themselves. So I wanted to change the entire sizing system. Because every time you're like, oh no, I was an 8, but now I'm a 10. And now I have all that anxiety about being a 10, but then I go to a 12 and now I'm just devastated, right? And I was like, no, I want women to feel good about themselves. So I renamed every size to be able to be body positive names. And then I wanted to get all the old men and women in Cape Town to sew the clothes. I was trying to solve social problems and emotional problems. And actually all I should have been does this business make money? How does it make money? Where does it make money? Okay, cool. And once I figured out how much money I'm making and I can make it, I can then go and solve all the social ills that are wrong in the world, right? And I tried to do it backwards. And as an entrepreneur, and especially those that are very socially conscious like myself, we're always trying to fix the world, right? But actually the world gets fixed with money, right? And you can ask Qatar this underhandedly. They just paid 6 billion, apparently, or not apparently, to get Iran to stop bombing them. Right? So money makes things happen much faster than diplomacy, apparently. So, when you think about your business and you think about the business model, think about how, what kind of model am I in, right? Am I a product based, right? Am I a service industry? Do I have an e-commerce business? So do I have, and you can be a service industry on an e-commerce platform, right? Because you're selling your services like Fiverr, and that way you like a freelance support person. Am I a franchise, right? Am I taking somebody else's business, making it my own and running it? Because then I don't have to worry about the brand and the overheads and the marketing and that. I just pay for that and that sorts itself out, right? Do I do network marketing? And network marketing, the best way to describe this, and again, aging myself here, Tupperware and honey jewelry. That's network marketing. Can I get all my friends around and can I get them to buy my stuff, right? And then I'm not yet an entrepreneur if I can't get anybody else to buy it. So can I get their friends to buy it and their friends and their friends and so on, right? Is it that there's a great product out there in the market and I'm just going to buy the right to license it and then license it in South Africa? And so like the guys like McDonald's and that they actually have licensing models, but also a lot of the tech platforms have licensing models where you're able to actually just look at, I created this product once and now people are going to pay for it all the time because of a license attached to it, right? Is my business B2B? So do I sell to other businesses or am I B2C? Do I sell directly to the customers? Or for WomHub, we are B2B2C, right? Which is business to business. We pay the business pays me, but actually my end customer is somebody completely different to whoever paid me to do the service, right? And then am I a nonprofit, right? And that's also a business model as well, but the metrics are different and what you are looking at changes. And so when you understand, okay, what is my business? What am I selling, right? Can I articulate that? And I always say, can you tell me what you're selling like you would tell my 80-year-old grandmother? Now, if you can tell her and she gets it, then you know that you are that you are able to articulate anything, right? And somebody will buy it. But when you are too complex, there's too much jargon, there's too much happening. Nobody's going to get what you are trying to sell, right? And so you've got to think about the complexity and basically making everything in the world stupidly simple, right? So that when you go into market, you understand what it is that you are busy with. I think we underestimate the amount of market research that goes into actually developing products. So product development is easier, right? Because I love it, I'm passionate about it, I'm going to do this. Actually understanding what the market needs, what the market will pay for. And before this, you'd need to hire an expensive market company, market research company or organization to do this. Honestly, today, there are a number of agents that you can, AI agents, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, they can do, Kimi is the other tool. Kimi actually acts like like a McKinsey type consultant, but it's about the prompt, right? Can you ask it very simply? And remember, you've always got to treat AI like a really dumb intern. So, and somebody told me, please don't call them dumb interns, but I'm like, but AI is, because it works with really good instructions, right? With no room for thinking, because it doesn't have the ability, even though it has thinking mode, it doesn't actually have the ability to think and contextualize. So you've got to provide all the context. I'm sitting in South Africa. I'm writing, I've got a company that wants to write editorials on behalf of corporate clients. My types of corporate clients, the ideal clients that I'm looking at are, big multinational banks, whoever else you'd like as a corporate client. Conduct a thorough market research analysis like you would if you worked at McKinsey. You've got to give your AI agent a personality. You are a senior McKinsey specialist working on the Africa desk. And these are the things I need you to understand. I need to understand, is my product the right fit? Who are my competitors? What are they charging? Is this a need still in the market? Who are the ideal people to speak to? Give it as much information as possible so that it can give you the best outcomes. And then it will do a massive amount of research for you, right? It will do a competitor analysis. It will do a product breakdown. It will then give you, and then you can ask it, what haven't I thought of? Where are the gaps in the market? It will do a complete gap analysis for you, right? And then it will even start to get information on price points and what other people are charging and costing, so that you can actually put yourself in and understand, oh, okay, I see everybody else is a Louis Vuitton. So if I go in at a Gucci or if I go in at a Woolworths, where am I going to be sitting? How is it going to be perceived in the market? Um, and then you got to map out this person. And I think the best entrepreneurs understand their customer inside out. And I always say, how do you know a customer? And I always say you got to have like 1,000 coffees, because one, you'll be like fully caffeinated and super wide awake. But more than that, you really understand who it is you're buying and selling, the buying and selling process. Because at the end of the day, AI is amazing. All the digital tools, amazing, but we buy from people that we know, like, and trust. And I've said this even in the capital space, money moves at the speed of know, like, and trust. So your first contract that you're going to sign is going to come from somebody who, if you don't know that person, I'm going to be like, hey, Paula, I need this. Do you have somebody that you know in the network? Right. And then Paula's going to do a recommendation and then I'm going to trust that recommendation because I know, like, and trust Paula. And so I can part with my money. Right. And so when you're thinking about what does that buyer persona look like, you've got to really map out who it is that you're buying to, the human being that you're buying to. Right? What do they need? I remember, I sat with one of our customers who became a partner for 6 years with us. I know her kids. I know how many kids she has, and I've never met her kids, but I know what's important to her, right? I understand what drives her, right? Why does she do the work that she does? And the team was in the social equity team that we were selling to. So every person in her team, we knew every single person. I always tell my team, whenever they're having a problem with like headbutting with a client, if they're just not getting any headway, I go and break bread. Because when you sit on the other side of the table with somebody breaking bread, not talking business, but just understanding where their pain points are, you get so much information. So it may be bread, it may be coffee, whatever it is, right? But, sometimes it's a Zoom call, but like Zoom calls don't actually, it's not always there, right? Because people get on, it's very functional, and we get off the call. Whereas when you are sitting with somebody in a more comfortable scenario and you're not selling, you're just understanding, right? They share so much more. And I found I have this rule that says never say no to a coffee. And I get people that message me on LinkedIn, and I'll always have 30 minutes, which honestly, sometimes I question why, because I get onto a call with somebody who's connected with me on LinkedIn, and 5 minutes into this call, not even 15, I'm like, what am I doing here? And then like for the next 10 minutes, I'm thinking about my exit strategy from this call, right? So that I can end it, because I'm just like complete waste of my time. But sometimes I've had other calls where it's just been absolutely incredible. And you never know if it's going to be I need to exit this call within, the next 10 minutes, or it's going to be like, I really need to do a follow-up extension. This is another 2-hour conversation. And so, never be afraid to reach out to people within the network and ask. And be very, very super clear on the asks, right? So this is what I'm looking for. I do a session called Needs and Leads on one of our programs, where we literally sit around the circle and we go, what is it that you need? And what can you lead on? So like, what leads can you give somebody else? And the founders always can lead, right? They're like, oh, I can open up my network. Oh, I can introduce you to this. Oh, I can do that. And I go, okay, what do you guys need? And they go, money. And I go, okay, cool, vague. Everybody needs money, right? Firstly, you haven't told me how much money you need. You haven't told me what you need the money for. You never know, like, oh, so first you just like start with how much, like if you need money. But actually, there's a saying in the VC space, go to an investor and you ask for money, they're going to give you advice. Ask for advice, and they will give you money, right? And so it's really about understanding again that, there's this fundamental human piece to us that wants to connect. We want to feel part of a village, and we want to be able to feel supported and support for each other, right? And so when you're thinking about being able to sell and thinking about your product and your market, you've got to think about how well do I know this buyer, and making sure that you either selling, and I always think about like, why do people buy things, right? So one, we buy because we want to save time. And actually, if you think about when you map out why people are buying anything, it's the number one reason in like a corporate, if you're selling into corporates or if you're selling into like organizations, it's because you're going to save them time or you're going to save them money, right? So whatever you're doing is more efficient, and actually efficiency also speaks to time. When you're selling to other customers, it's you either making them feel good. So when they work with WomHub, they feel good because the impact that we have on female entrepreneurs and female engineers makes the company look good and feel good. They can pat themselves on the back. There's a great photo up around it, and they can be seen as doing good in the world, right? So, doing good and feeling good and that kind of emotion of gratitude. And then the other way we sell is fear, right? So the cybersecurity business, we sell fear, right? Oh my goodness, do you know how vulnerable you are? You're going to get hacked. Like, what's going to happen if somebody takes like your entire computer over? Like, and so fear-based. So it's either you save money, you save time, they buy it out of love or they buy it out of fear. And that's pretty much the four things. And so when you understand what handbag you are, and then which area is your kind of sales strategy in, you're able to think about more broadly, how is it that you're able to build your business? And the businesses of the future are not going to look like these massive conglomerates where there's 50,000 people in offices in around the world. It's going to look very, very different. And with the power of, and I call this augmented humanity, it's something that I coined, where it's people that are augmented by artificial intelligence, right? And so I was joking with Ange, our CEO, the other day, because I used to have an assistant that used to help me on proposal development because I'm responsible for business development. So we put lots of bids in for different projects. And I used to get very frustrated because I would give the instruction and then, it would come back and it just wasn't what I wanted. And I would just spend the time rewriting it. And then I actually just trained my model to do exactly what I wanted it to do. And now it knows my voice and it knows everything else. And so suddenly I've gone from having another person in my team helping me on this particular piece to actually myself and Gemini mostly. But sometimes I cross-check it with GPT and sometimes I cross-check it with Claude just to see what else I can get. And so I use those tools. And then the person that I had in my team actually has a completely different role right now. I'm just like, that role is when I have people come to see me in my office, what is the experience that they have from a hospitality perspective? And so now I'm training our team to be customer facing, like in a hospitality setting. And actually the person I hired comes from the hotel industry. So when you're coming to see me, that experience must be absolutely incredible and welcoming, and they must feel loved and they must feel important. And I'm like, that's the experience I want my customers to feel, right? And then the bids and stuff like that, AI can do that, and AI can do that faster and quicker than like any other human can. And so the companies of the future are probably going to have this mix to it. And the winners right now, and I think we're probably about a year, I was still talking to somebody, we're about a year and a half out of being able to have the first mover advantage on completely looking at AI integration into business. In a year's time, everybody's going to be doing it. They're going to all have agents. They would have all figured it out. Or everything's going to crash and burn. I don't know. There's two scenarios of a future that I think about. But if I can leave you with nothing today, it will be always work on your abs. So whenever I tell people, they say like in a gym way or like what do you mean work on my abs? And I go, as always be selling. As an entrepreneur, you literally never know which rooms that you're in. And so whatever room that you're in, work on your abs, always be selling. I'm going to stop there because I can see there's like a bunch of stuff in chat and that, and I'm terrible at multitasking. So I'll take some guidance.
Thank you so much. I mean, that was just amazing. It's absolutely wonderful listening to you. We do have questions specifically to you though, and they all relate to that whole issue of how do you it's pricing, it's value. So Denise's question is first, she says, can you share practical tips on value, on charging when you're in a service-based industry? And she says that I'm at a point where I can negotiate to a point, not giving discounts, but reducing scope. And then when there is no alignment, I walk away. I mean, is that something you would do?
Yeah, so it's better to walk away upfront than fire a client. We've had to fire a client before, and it's one of the worst things and experiences that you can go through, because it's jarring, and you think about your reputational damage and stuff like that. Rather just not take it upfront. When you're thinking about pricing, I always say you've got a benchmark, and so you can use AI to be able to benchmark and be like, what is the industry standard? You can also just phone up your competitor, right? And be like, hi, or you get your friend to phone up your competitor and be like, hi, I'm looking for this, I need a quote. And then they will send you the quote, and then you can see what others are charging in the space, right? At the end of the day, you've also got to think about what is your niche offering, like what is the value that you, with value, right, there is the perceived value and actual value, right? So the Louis Vuitton bag, right? There's a perceived value that it's high end and that it gives me a status. And when I walk into the room with the brand, people take me seriously and differently, like Rolex watches, right? If you see any African businessman, you always see them with a Rolex watch, because the first time you meet somebody, they shake their hand and they check what watch you're wearing, right? And then they look, and then in their head, they decide whether you're credible as a business person or not, right? And so there's a perceived value attached to certain brands, and they've actually been able to capture the perceived value, not the actual value. A lot of the time, what we're doing is we're selling actual value, right? So we're going, okay, my services per hour, my rate is 5,500 Rand. So I'm going to charge my customer 5,500 Rand, not knowing that your customer, because they see the value that you bring, because you've kind of got one of the saving me time, saving me money, you love me or you fear me, right? And actually for what you're selling, they would actually pay 15,000, right? But you are capturing your pricing on a actual value, not a perceived value. And the only way you'll know perceived value is if you do market research. So you know more or less what the competitors are charging, and then more or less what the company's budgets are, right? And rather go with perceived value, so that you can actually feel like they feel like they're negotiating you down, and there's wiggle room. Meanwhile, actually, you triple where your actual value, your value mark is. And then you've got to have a non-negotiable line, right? And go, actually, for this, I can't do it. You can't sell Louis Vuitton. You can't deliver Louis Vuitton at Woolworths pricing, right? So you've just got to walk away. And I'm hoping that answers the question.
The second question actually is related to that, and it's Melanie Moses who says that is it better to have a set offering and pricing structure, or bespoke offerings and pricing when you're starting out? She finds that this bespoke approach helps to build relationships, but it takes up an insane amount of time and may never convert into paid work.
Usually we went with two, right? So we went when we went into, and we always used to call it a pizza offering. So we had a menu with different services, and we sent it to our customers, and we said we work two ways. One, you plug into this. So this is the menu, this is the offering, and it's very clear. Or if you want something bespoke, like come and speak to us and we'll design something very specifically for you, right? That gives you the option. It also gives the customer the option to say, oh, okay, I start with a base, and then I can add the cheese and the tomato and whatever else, and then get a product delivered. And then we found that helped with, because a lot of the time customers are also going, I have a set budget, but now you're going to go, and the worst thing, honestly, the worst, I really hate this, and this is in a B2C space, but you can use the analogy for services as well. People are selling their services, they're selling the product, whatever, right? And they go, DM me for pricing. Like on Instagram, like they're like, the minute I have to DM you for pricing, I don't actually want to buy, because now I'm going to do two steps. I'm lazy, right? It's, not saving me time any longer. So now I DM you for pricing, and you go, okay, cool. This is the price. Like, what do you want? And I'm like, okay, cool. I want X, Y, and Z. And then they go, okay, this is the pricing. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then they go, okay, I'm like, okay, cool. How do I pay? And they're like, okay, here's my bank details. Now I've got to go to a third space to go and pay for something. If you are trying to make it seamless for a customer. I always say click, 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 buy, right? Because when they're in a bubble, and sometimes they're in a love bubble or they're in a trauma bubble and they need to get something out very quickly, you need to make that sales process as seamless as possible. If you're going to go, let me send you a proposal, let me do this, let me do that, you've got to have these things at the disposal. And so what we do usually is we've got the standard pricing I can just send you right after you meet me. With information about me. If I want something bespoke, I can do that for you. It's going to take a little bit of time. Now I've managed the expectation of time. And then this is what it's going to be from a delivery perspective. And this is how it's going to feel, right? And so when you're thinking about creating that chain of sequence around your sales strategy, right? You've got to make sure that you kind of think about, the pricing upfront, what's your minimums. And then also what we used to do was, kind of have a worm pricing. So like, if you're fishing, I don't fish, but you put the worm on the end of the hook, right? So sometimes you make it like enticing for them. You do a slightly a smaller piece, but lower value from what you would normally charge to like hook them in. The problem with, and we've done that strategy before with a few partners, we hook them in on something small, and then with the idea that we actually wanted to scale this and make it bigger. The problem is they understand that your pricing point is there. So to try and get them from there to there, massive jump. And then they're going to complain, right? So just remember that when you are pricing, even for like the hook pricing, you've got to really think about, if I want to hook them in, the escalation to the actual pricing can't be that big a jump for them.
And Nadia, I mean, again, pricing. Nokutula is asking, how do you handle a client who's lowballing you?
Sometimes it's a game.
Yeah, I mean, it also links to mission creep, right? I mean, sometimes we don't know how to say no, and we start off selling something, and when we end up having to deliver double that.
Yeah. And I think the other piece is like the honesty piece. Going, I would really love to work with you. This sounds like an amazing opportunity that is really up our alleyway. Unfortunately, at this price point, it just doesn't make sense for us, right? Because then they know, because sometimes they're pushing you because they're just like, I'm going to, I hate that because I'm not a haggler, right? You tell me like, hey, Nadia, this is my price. I'm going to be like, okay, awesome, cool. But other people like thrive in the haggling, right? And they're going to try and push you down, whether if it's real or not, or they just have budgets. The two ways we've handled it, where we've come in too high, we've got, can we give you something at your budget point, right? So then you understand where the budget is and then what you can deliver for that, right? So being honest and saying, what you're wanting right now, I can't deliver at that price point, but tell me the budget and then I can create something very specifically for you that's going to look very different to what I would have offered you. But what I'm offering you is at this price, is at 100K. That's the price. But if your budget is 10K, let me see if I can do the small piece for you. That still sort of speaks to your KPIs, but it's not. And then don't go and do Louis Vuitton at Woolies prices.
So I have a question. And one of the things that always strikes me about you, Nadia, is that you think big. And I think very often we as I was saying in the beginning, we start an SME and we stay an SME. So how did you scale? I mean, if I look at what you've done, scale is always your endpoint, it seems.
Yeah, and so for me, it's around know your strength, right? And a lot of the founders, they build what they love. And I used to be like this. I'm like, oh, this is my baby. I can't like let it go. But actually, when you let it go and you build a team, and the team is not going to do it the same way you would have done it, that's okay, right? But in order to scale and let it grow beyond you, you've got to bring in a team, right? And the best thing we could have done for WomHub was bring in an amazing CEO. It took us, we couldn't afford her. So we ramped her in over time. So we had 30% of her time, 50%, 70%, and now 100% of her time. And bringing her in, she then, was responsible for recruiting the next piece of the next level of team members. We let go. And I think then in that letting go, it starts to free yourself up for other things. And so before, our time was constrained by just, X amount of, we will only have 24 hours in a day, right? And so by bringing on more people, you suddenly add the additional capacity to what you're able to do. And that's how you scale. And if you think about like some of the big companies, they're scaling on capacity. And these days, capacity speaks to different things. Capacity speaks to people. Capacity now also speaks to technology and tools, right? So what is it that, and then it's basically you're buying time, right? And so when you're hiring, you're actually hiring for time for yourself. And that's, so as an entrepreneur, you're now having to weigh up, okay, if I'm going to have to pay more staff. Yeah, but actually, if you're paying more staff, you can free up more time for yourself to go and do X, Y, and Z. And I think that's the beauty around scale. And it's not always it's going to be uncomfortable. It's ugly. You're going to burn your hands. We had a terrible experience bringing in a senior leader who nearly wrecked the business. And we had to kind of parachute in and try and like remedy and remedial the entire situation. And that can happen, right? And so it's not all like roses and lilies. It's actually like the stuff is hard when you want to scale. And that's why I said starting a business is super easy. I have 5 million business ideas every day, right? But building and scaling a business that can outlast you is hard. And so kind of when you build, and I think this is the other piece, build with the end in mind. What does the end look like for you, right? And then work backwards. And then what type of business is it? Now, is it a business that you wanted to scale and live beyond you and that, or is it a lifestyle business that actually it pays the bills, it keeps you happy and content, and you have the lifestyle that you want? And that's okay if you want a lifestyle business, right? There's nothing wrong with either approach. It's just around the energy and the effort that you want to put in, and then be nimble enough and to be able to understand what's happening in the market. And if there's an opportunity, go for it. And then the last piece is, are you built? I always ask, besides handbags, I like to ask, are you a flower or are you a leaf? Now, if you look at a plant, whenever anybody looks at a plant, they only ever see the flowers, right? But the flowers are seasonal. It's a fad. It comes and it goes, right? But a leaf is always there. It's giving life to the plant. It's doing the most on the photosynthesis. But nobody goes out to a shop to go buy leaves, right? Unless it's for a salad. But they go out and specifically buy flowers, right? And so, is your business seasonal? And I always go like, look at those Labubu dolls and the Stanley cups and all of those seasonal flowers, right? Those guys made loads of money, short space of time. Cool. You don't see anybody now buying the Stanley cups or the Labubu dolls. In fact, they've massive amounts of it is going to landfills, those ugly dolls. But they took advantage of a flower situation. But sometimes, and that's okay. So maybe you only want to build a business because it's hot right now. But other times you want to build a business that is going to grow and it's going to nourish, and then you're going to build a leaf, right? But know that the energy to build a leaf is very different to an energy that's going to build a flower, right? And then figure out where your business sits.
I promise, we're running out of questions. We have 3 questions. How do you build an international clientele? Number 1. Number 2, how do you raise funding for a small business? And that's from the registration list. And number 3, how do you remain agile in an evolving business technological landscape while you keep focus on the problem you're solving?
So my dad used to call me a conferencing engineer because he said, Nadia, every time I look for you at a conference, and I literally would just find conferences to go to and somebody else to foot the bill. And I traveled all around the world going to conferences, and that's how we met clients, right? And so there's still something to be said about being in the same room with people, connecting, networking, and making money, right? And so our international, so because I actually wanted to travel but couldn't afford to, so conferences was my strategic direction towards doing so. I wish I had the master plan, but honestly, I'm going to give you guys the honest opinion. I wanted to travel. I couldn't afford to it. I figured out people would pay for me to go to conferences. I went to said conferences, met people, And that's how I made customers internationally, because they loved what I was selling, right? And what I was selling was making them feel good and doing good in getting more women and girls into STEM. And so I then started going more and more, and I literally have been to so many different countries around the world, and that's how we've built our customers. So currently, right now, WomHub has 50-50. 50% of our revenue comes from customers and going to these events, and the other 50% comes from bids, like open calls and answering open calls. The second question was around raising capital. And we're spending a lot of time on this because entrepreneurs don't understand the kind of capital they need. So everybody wants to raise venture capital, right? It will kill your business. In most cases, your businesses aren't actually venture backable. And actually what you need is good working capital, or good debt capital, right? But we structurally haven't set up our businesses like that. So WomHub, we're actually building a bunch of AI tools to help entrepreneurs understand the type of capital they need. And then the capital may be there for you, but you may not be ready for capital, because to get capital, you need to be able to have management accounts. You need to be able to go through a due diligence and compliance check, right? And so the easiest way to get capital is grant right now. So, grant funding for whatever piece, because the amount of due diligence in a grant process isn't there compared to like a venture capital or a debt capital process. And so I would say, figure out what's the vision, how big can the business be, do the financials. And honestly, you don't even need to know how to do this yourself. I uploaded all my bank statements into Claude, and I asked it to put full management accounts and a projection for me around how big the business could be, right? So that gives you like a thumbs up, right? But you've got to, again, do good prompting to tell it exactly what you want to get, teach it like a dumb intern. But and then look at what kind of capital you should be getting. And right, is it, and sometimes you need a grant just to kickstart stuff. You're not yet big enough, especially early stage. And there are like grants available, winning competitions. So we're seeing a lot of like entrepreneurs like win competitions there. But if you've got something that can scale very fast, then you can speak to an angel investor. We unfortunately, and we as people of color, don't have the friends, family, full rounds, right? That first angel check. So there are a couple of angel syndicates in that, but money moves at the speed of know, like, and trust. So you've gotta get in there. And right now, it takes about 18 months from I speak to an investor to writing a check. And so and on the debt side, it's taking about 12 months. So you need to be able to understand the pathway to money is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of energy, and then be ready for the type of capital that you're looking for. And then the last one is, how do I stay grounded? What was the last one?
How do you stay agile in an
To stay agile.
evolving technological space? Yeah.
The piece is it can feel very overwhelming, right? So great fundamentals first, like, do you have like a great business idea, and that, but understand that there may be an opportunity for flowers. And so going, and I'll give you a great example. Everybody's talking about Claude Code and agentic AI and downloading it onto your laptop and letting agents run your entire workflows. And somebody who loves AI and tech, I have not yet downloaded Claude onto my laptop and run AI agents on my workflows yet, because I'm not sure the security levels, and I'm just worried that they'll basically have access to my, and I've seen some scary things where overnight Claude changed code on projects. It deleted an entire mail system because it thought it was all junk. So there's the first movers that may make a lot in the process, right? But then there's sometimes where you don't necessarily want to be the first, you want to be the first second. So you kind of wait for like all the bugs to play out, and then come in like right at that point. Part of it is art, part of it is science, part of it is crystal ball gazing, right? And you may be right and or wrong. And I think it's the agility to be able to put enough into it to see if it's going to work, but not so much that it's going to kill you and break your business. And so for me, I'm always kind of looking at what's happening on, I would refuse to call it X, I would call it Twitter. So what's happening on Twitter, what's happening on LinkedIn, what's happening on socials, and then trying to kind of figure out what is signal and what is noise. And so signal means that that's actually something happening in the market. Noise is just people chest bumping. And currently what I'm seeing, for example, for code codes, agentic AI is a lot of chest bumping. It's a lot of noise. I'm yet to see like powerful signals. But I'm watching for it, right? To be like it fundamentally shifts, and then I'll get on the bandwagon.
Thank you, Nadia. I mean, what an amazing session today. I mean, a really great start to our three-part webinar series. I mean, this has just been so much food for thought, really. I mean, I love the always be selling. I hate selling, but I realize that I'm the best person to sell my business. And so you're right? Always be selling. Thank you very much, as always, for not only the generosity of your time, but the generosity of your insight and your wisdom. This has been a really incredible session. Thank you very, very much. I fear that if we extend, we'll get more questions. Thank you very
No,
much,
it's an
Nadia.
absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure anytime, and wishing everybody the best. My sincere hope is that we just make more money, because when we have money, we do things that matter.
Exactly, absolutely. And I hope that this is the start of seeing many more women entrepreneurs going out there and building businesses that can scale. Please think about some reflections as you walk away from this seminar. You know, what resonated from what Nadia was saying? Where do you see yourself in what she was describing? And what do you need to do differently going forward? I want to emphasize that we've got 2 more sessions. In our next session, Grow the Business, we'll be joined by Pat Robert, who is my coach and a leadership expert, incredible leadership expert, and Imbali Nehlingwetwe, who's going to be really focusing on financial compliance. And then in our final session, Lead with the Business, on May 21, we're going to be joined by Tinashe Makwanda, who works at the intersection of journalism and technology to build sustainable media models. Tinashe does consultancy across the globe. I'm working with various organizations, including MDIF, Internews, etc. And together we're going to be exploring leadership resilience and what it takes to scale and sustain your business over time. Each session builds on the next. Send us your questions, send us your issues, and we'll try and make sure that we work it into that. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your questions and for your comment. But most of all, thank you, Nadia. That was such an incredible session. I'm really, really grateful for your time. See you all April 23, everyone. Ciao.